Hello and welcome to part 2 of What is Conveyancing. In part 2 we will be looking at mortgages, checking contracts, raising inquiries, exchange and completion. Mortgages. On a sale, we would request a redemption statement from our client's lender at the very early stage of the case. The reason we do this is so we know how much is owing against the property. If the redemption statement shows that the client owes £150,000 and the property is sold for £140,000, meaning negative equity, we would need to know where the additional £10,000 is coming from. It does not always mean that the transaction isn't going to proceed, as it may be an investment property that the client wants to offload. When we are acting on behalf of the purchaser, we will receive our copy of the mortgage offer. Once received, it means we are now acting on the lender's behalf as well as the client. We are sometimes called by the agents saying that the client has received their copy of the mortgage offer, when we are still waiting for our copy, and they can fax a copy over to us to work off. We cannot do this because our copy of the mortgage offer is completely different to that of the client's. There will be conditions in our copy that we have to make sure are in place prior to completion. There may be a need for a damp clause to be put in place. So we would need to have a copy of the certificate prior to the lender releasing the funds, and this is of course to protect the lender's interest over the property. When we come to checking contracts on a sale, we would prepare the contracts as soon as we have instruction from the client confirming they want us to act for them. We will then send certain documents to the client, and these will include the contract, plan, and transfer for them to sign. The reason we send these documents over to the client at such an early stage is to ensure we have them on file, ready for exchange. What we hear from a lot of local solicitors just a few days prior to exchange is that they are going to call their clients in to sign, so they are dependent on their clients being able to attend their offices. And what if Mr. Work's away? At the same time, we would send the contract package over to the buyer's conveyancer. This would include office copies, fixtures and fittings, transfer, and any other supporting document like building regulations and other documents that relate to the property. Once contracts have been sent on a sale or received on a purchase case, this is when inquiries will be raised. We raise 7 standard inquiries on a purchase, and these include: have there been any extensions to the property? And please provide guarantees for replacement windows, doors, and fencer certificates. These all relate to the property. The standard inquiries we receive from the other side solicitors can sometimes run into 30 or 40 pages again, and an example of this is: please confirm whether any of the following events have taken place at the property: murder, suicide, deaths other than by natural causes, abductions of any kind, hauntings or other explained phenomenon, exorcisms, known criminal acts with special reference to paedophilia. And what would have happened here is that they may have received this as an inquiry and thought, I think I will add this to my standard inquiries. Whereas we would talk to our client and ask if there is anything specific that they would want us to raise. There are some religions where they will not move into a property if someone has died on the premises. Once I have received the inquiries, the first thing I would do is call the client, because they would know things like: have there been any extensions to the property, any new windows, etc. Anything relating to the title is our area of expertise, and we would be answering these. Also on a purchase, as soon as we have received in the contract documents from the other side, we would again send out the contract and transfer for the client's signature. We would also send out the SDLT form, which we will have completed prior to sending. The SDLT form has to be completed regardless as to whether there is stamp duty or not. The Inland Revenue want to know about every house that has changed hands, because if they see that someone has purchased several houses, they would question if they were buying these for rental purposes, and would expect them to pay tax on the earnings. The reason we complete the SDLT form is for the benefit of the client. If they complete this themselves and it is incorrect in any way, the Inland Revenue will reject it and impose a fine. If it is submitted incorrectly again, they will impose another fine, so this all starts to add up. We would also send out the mortgage deed to the client for signature. So then we get to exchange of contracts. There are several ways that you can exchange contract, and these are called formulas. The first one is Formula A, where the conveyancer meets face to face and they physically exchange contract. Formula C is where conveyancer holds both parts of the contract. The most common choice, though, is Formula B, which is done by telephone. It seems quite easy, but can be quite nerve-wracking after you've worked for several weeks to get it to this point. Also, this is when the client can breathe a sigh of relief, because they know once that the contract has exchanged, it is formally legally binding. So how would we do this? First, we would phone the conveyancer on the other side, and we would have the contract in front of us. The other side's conveyancer would have their contract, and then we would go through the contract word by word. Our client's full name, their client's full name, the property, the title number, the deposit, and also the cost of the property. We would then say the exact time, such as it is 12:03. I would then say my name, and the other side would say theirs, and we would then say we're exchanged. On the day of completion, the purchaser will receive the funds from their lender. These will then be sent over to the seller. Now, most estate agents know we ask them not to release the keys until we've received the sufficient funds. If we were selling the property at £110,000 and we only received £109,000, we're not going to say, "That's okay, send us £1,000 tomorrow." We ask the agents to only release the keys when we specifically say so. Thank you for watching part 2 of What is Conveyancing.